Jeff here.
So are we good? All right, everybody, both on Zoom and in person, thank you so much for joining us for the official press conference and announcement of our head coach, former U.S. Women's National Team player, two-time Olympic gold medalist, and FIFA World Cup champion, Amy Rodriguez. And she's joined by our club president, Michelle Heinsick. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you all so much for coming here. It's wonderful to see you. Empowering women, both on and off the field, has really been the underlying driving force throughout this journey of our return to royalty. From day one, ownership has prioritized advancing women's careers, this female empowerment mission, and today it is reinforced further with our hiring of FIFA World Cup champion, Olympic medalist, NWSL champion, Utah Royals captain, Amy Rodriguez. Perhaps even more emulative of our mission to empower women, advance their careers in our Utah community and beyond. Amy is not only beloved by her players as a Utah Royals captain, but by the community here, and connecting deeply with the Utah community through her initiatives, through her involvement as humanitarian of the year, and her commitment to excellence, to winning, to community, to family, embody our Utah Royals creed. And we're so honored to have you, Amy, at the helm and lead us into this new era of the Utah Royals. So with that, I'll turn it over to, I guess, questions or, thank you.
All right, well, we're going to start over in person, and then we'll move over to Zoom. Caleb, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Welcome, Amy. Caleb Turner from KSL.com. I guess just like, what was your first reaction when you started to think this might be a possibility to come back?
First reaction was, what a dream. What an absolute dream, an honor, a privilege. There are moments where I don't feel deserving of this role, and it's a very heavy crown to wear, for sure. But the competitor in me, as Michelle mentioned, the player in me, it was always one to strive for excellence and lead with passion and hard work. And I think that's something that you're definitely going to see me in this role doing.
And then I know you spent the last year at USC as an assistant. Has coaching always been something that you've been interested in, and I guess at this point decided that this was where you kind of wanted to take your next step?
I didn't know coaching was going to be in my future. Several years ago, the NWSL Players Association offered a coaching license course, and I signed up thinking I wanted to learn more about it. And it was probably one of the greatest decisions I ever made. And so I'm super thankful for the NWSLPA to provide that for me, and look at the doors that it's open. So very excited and looking forward to it.
Wonderful. Thanks, Caleb. And before you ask a question, if you could just introduce yourself and what outlet you're with, just so that Amy can get to know your faces. Sean, we'll move to you.
I realize it's probably Sean Walker from KSL. I realize it's the first day that you're on the job, and so it's probably maybe one of the last things on your mind. But can you give us a little bit of hint of like sort of what kind of a coach you are, what kind of I mean, how you like to play, like how you sort of see yourself as a manager? Are you sit on the cooler type, or are you a get loud, rah type from the sideline? Like just kind of how you are as a coach, I guess.
I guess time will tell in terms of what kind of coach I'll be. But one thing I'm for certain of is no, I'm not perfect, and no, I don't have a lot of experience in this, but I never give up. I will never quit, and I will give it my very best every single day. One thing about me is that I care deeply about the players in this league. I want to see them develop, grow, win, and me myself. I love to win. So if I can instill that here, if I can bring a championship here, that is my goal, and that's what I want to do.
Hi, I'm Chandler Hill, KSL Sports. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Second, how does it feel to return to a team and a place that you already have experience with?
Absolutely love being back here. It feels a bit full circle to have been here as a player and now to come back as the head coach. I never would have thought this was going to happen for me, but the fact that it has, as I mentioned, it's an incredible honor, and I will do my very best with it to make this community proud because I love this place. I enjoyed my time here so greatly. I can't wait to give back again.
Lucas Muller, Wasatch Soccer. Can you just walk us through what those initial conversations with Michelle were like? And I know you said you didn't necessarily see this coming, but as an assistant at your alma mater, what you thought you could bring to a head coaching role?
My initial conversation was a bit shocking. I wasn't expecting a text message from Michelle to ask me to connect. Michelle and I grew up in the same soccer circles, and so it had been several years since we had really communicated, but when she reached out, she asked for a phone call. I said, no problem. She responded with a Zoom link, and I thought that was a bit odd. Accelerated the conversation quite quickly, and then things kind of progressed from there. But I just remember being very shocked and honored, really, a little bit flabbergasted. Like, didn't think that I was necessarily the one to look to for this position. I knew it was a huge role, and like I said, it's an honor to be in charge here and to hopefully take this team to the championship.
Michelle, can you share kind of your thoughts from the other side of that?
Yeah, I think, like Amy said, I think this is just one special example of how soccer and youth soccer and our involvement, over, I don't know how many years, decades and decades ago, two people can be teammates as young girls, go in totally different paths. I went off to Harvard, studied government there, became a lawyer, worked in New York I lived in New York for 14 years, was a senior counsel at MLS. Amy obviously became one of the best players in the world, an Olympic gold medalist. And then, Amy's remark about something coming full circle, like the opportunity, seeing what she was doing at USC, seeing her pathway through the NWSL coaching program at USC, even in her stint there, helping several players make their national team appearances, having an All-American, her roster building and very well-known connection with the players at USC. And then obviously, as I touched upon in my opening remarks, how beloved she was by the players here, the community here, truly iconic for the Utah Royals. It was an opportunity that we felt as an organization we had to, totally capture and jump on. So yes, what's started out was kind of a check-in among very old former high school teammates. Quickly escalated to Zoom calls with ownership, and where we are today.
Alex Nahar with the Solid Tribune. What's up, Amy? Nice to see you again. You were here when prior ownership was here and all of that stuff was happening. As you were, and I remember you saying something like that you were excited about whoever the new ownership was going to be, and obviously that took several years, the team moved and all that stuff. As you were having conversations with ownership in kind of the run-up to taking this job, what excited you, or what gave you sort of like a positive feeling that like this club is now in the right direction, going in the right direction versus the direction it was going before?
I am so excited to see Royals 2.0. I think this time we're going to be better than ever. The new ownership group, even in my first phone call, talked about how much they wanted to develop women, develop myself as a coach. They're so invested in empowering the players, the people in this league. And I think getting behind that and realizing what they're trying to do here just made me so excited and made my decision a little bit easier to come here and move my whole family and really jump aboard this, because I think the organization this time around is going to be better than ever.
All right, are there any other questions in person before we move to Zoom?
Back here, Amy, just if I could ask you about your teammate next to you. What do you remember about your old high school teammate and Michelle? What kind of a player was she? I heard she had some leadership maybe back in those days or something. She might have been a team captain or assistant captain or something like that. So just what do you remember about her?
Yeah, what's interesting is Michelle was actually my team captain of my high school team. So me sitting here as a little freshman looking up to the junior
Have some
class.
years on her.
I've always respected Michelle, and she was always the smartest one in school, the hardest worker on the field. She talks about how hard I worked as a player, but truthfully, you look to the players before you and the ones above you, and she set a great example, and she still is setting a great example. So I'm super proud to be joining arms with her and kind of starting this organization off on what seems to be like an amazing foot.
Yeah, I think I'll add, we talk a lot, and I've talked a lot as part of the announcement of the return to royalty about, making sure that players have the platform to serve as role models to young children and the next generation. We also talk about, and I've talked about the women that have come before me, women like Anastasia Denies, who's the general counsel of MLS, was at NFL for many years, Jessica Gelman, who's at our Board of Governors table. But it's also super important, I think this shows, to empower your peers, your colleagues, your teammates, the women in your generation, and to help them advance their careers as you are. And I think that's what this new era of the NWSL is about, is empowering and uplifting each other, not only, looking to not only the gratefulness and the leadership of the women that have come before and looking to the next generation to empower them, but also our comrades, our teammates, our colleagues.
No pressure. Coach Rodriguez, welcome. This is so fun to say that, Coach Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to go back a little bit too, if I could. In preparation for this, I took the opportunity to look back on your international goals, and it was fun to see the names of those who assisted you in your goals, names like Wambach, O'Reilly, Cheney, Lloyd.
Definitely.
Can you share with us what you carry having played with those other legends?
I look back on my career and I'm so grateful for my experiences. I played with some of the absolute greatest American players, international players as well, but through my years on the national team, I feel so fortunate, and I gained a lot of knowledge as a player, and now I'm looking to apply that to coaching and to see how I can help the next generation and help them become the next best players. Because right now, as I sit here, I think about my journey and which coaches brought the best version of me out, and I hope to do that now in the NWSL.
All right, thank you for those in person. We're going to go ahead and switch over to Zoom. If you could use the raised hand function, that way I know to call on you. We'll start with Jeff. Go ahead and introduce yourself and what outlet you're with, just so that we can get a bit of familiarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Kassouf with the Equalizer. Welcome, Amy. Welcome back. Just wondering, you mentioned the B license at the top, and I wanted to ask you about that course. What about that sort of captured you into this coaching sphere? And I'm just wondering kind of how that accelerated the process for you, maybe when you took that course, and if you can share anything about what the sort of road ahead looks like for you, and how you're kind of juggling the A license now as well.
Yeah, I think that I jumped in the B course not knowing what to expect, but in that course and with my peers, fellow teammates, fellow players in the NWSL, we got to look at the game through a different lens, and I got to learn a lot, and it actually helped me as a player. But it sort of started that snowball effect of what it was going to be like as a coach. And I just grew a passion for it. I didn't know how much I was going to love coaching until I started that course. And then especially when I jumped into my college coaching position, both of those were pivotal to me standing here, sitting here. And I think, yeah, I'm just forever grateful for that moment.
Jeff, do you have a follow-up?
And if, Michelle, if you could just, what the process, you have the connection with Amy. You talked about kind of the reach out and how that went. I'm just wondering sort of what did the process look like maybe from the starting point even, maybe before you even identified Amy, of how you went about the coaching search at large.
Yeah. I touched upon this in the announcement as well. One of the first steps that ownership engaged in they have this ecosystem of soccer teams, Global Football Holdings. There are individuals that work for Global Football Holdings. It's very data driven. So we engaged a woman, Katerina DeBacco, who is a statistician, sports data analyst specialist in Germany, a professor, and one of her first roles was, and we're doing the same thing right on the sporting director side, on other technical positions, but was putting together a profile of head coaches, looking at from a data perspective, and data really is amazing and giving you that kind of initial universe of candidates, but then we also have this qualitative additions to the database, and so we obviously looked at both of those kind of metrics, and as I've touched upon, Amy just stands out as iconic, as legendary for the Utah Royals community, and looking at what she has done at USC, and then also another, as Amy touched upon, our ownership and Global Football Holdings really values development. Even on the RSL side, you see it with our homegrown, throughout the system, developing not just players, but myself included and front office hiring. So, all of those things are factors as how we've ended up here today.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll move to Dan.
Thanks, Dan Loletta from The Equalizer. Amy, looking back on your career, which spans to the start, your pro career anyway, the start of WPS, how would you say that you feel the game has evolved since those times and when you were winning championships in Kansas City?
Yes, I've been in the league a long time, and I've seen the growth of what was WPS now into the NWSL, and I just love the trajectory. I love everything about where the NWSL is going. No, it hasn't been perfect, and no, the road wasn't bump-free, but the players in this league are amazing, and the intensity, the passion, the way in which we're moving forward excites me from a coaching standpoint, and I just can't wait to see what these next few years bring, especially with 2 new expansion teams coming in next year. I'm greatly looking forward to it.
And then one more, are there any specifics that you've taken from some of the great coaches you've played for that you plan to incorporate into your coaching? And did you reach out to any of them before making this decision?
Short answer is yes, and I think that in taking on this role, I am going to be drinking through a fire hose quite a bit. A lot of advice from former coaches, my mentors, people back home, my family. When you take on a role like this, you do tend to lean on your own personal experiences, but then taking advice in from people who have done it before. So I definitely plan to look into some of the great coaches that I've had before this, and hopefully utilize some of their strengths and incorporate them into mine.
And actually one more, if that's okay for both, I guess. Has there been any indication from the league yet about the roster building process and what the expansion draft rules might be and when you can start signing players?
You want to talk about that?
Yeah. We've been in close communication with the league. We're hoping to sign players as soon as we can. As I talked about, Katerina is already building out our database, our player wish lists, who we're looking at. Obviously, starting to have conversation with agents. I think obviously it's critical for us to make our GM, sporting director, hire, because along with head coach Amy, they're going to be foundational in defining that identity. So while we are kind of laying all of that framework, gathering that universe of data and our wish list that Amy has now been the recipient of us, of Katerina sending over all of that information, our head coach and our GM are going to be critical in kind of defining that on the field strategy. So hope to have that be the next big announcement, and then make some big player signings shortly after.
Great.
Right.
Thank you both.
Thanks, Dan. Meg, we'll move to you.
Thanks, Meg. Meg Linehan from The Athletic. And Amy, I just, you talk about drinking from a fire hose. I feel like the NWSL, this as a player has a reputation of being extremely chaotic at times in the best in the best ways. But do you have a sense of like stepping into this coaching role? Obviously, you have experience as a player in this league, but do you have a sense of kind of what you don't know yet as a head coach in the league, and a sense of, okay, these are the pieces that I need to be ready for 2024?
Yes and no. I totally agree with you. This is, you don't know what you don't know, and I'm stepping into a new role for myself. Yes, I was a player in this league for many, many years, and I know it from that side. But I plan to learn quickly, and I plan to jump in full steam ahead and do the very best that I can. One thing I'm passionate about is the players in this league and making it the best experience for them. So that's what I'm going to lean on first and foremost, developing players and winning championships. So no, I don't have experience in that side of things, but I can guarantee you that as I was as a player, I leaned on hard work. I'll do the same as a coach.
Is there any matchup that you are already looking forward to? Is there any banter yet between you and the other coaches in this league?
No banter yet. I'm actually super overwhelmed by the amount of support, players in the league, other coaches in the league. So many people reached out. I'm just super grateful for the overwhelming support. But I am looking forward to that first opening match in 2024. Whoever it might be against.
All right, Theo, we'll move to you.
Theo Lloyd Hughes, Squad Dev. Hi, Amy. Just kind of quickly, two questions, one on the personal side, one on the soccer side. Sort of on the personal side, how did it feel waking up this morning? Did things feel different?
Things have felt different since my first phone call with Michelle, yes. Now, like I said, the overwhelming support, just people reaching out, rooting for me. It's a really great feeling to know that people want me to succeed, and I'm just excited to represent this city, this state, be back in the NWSL. It was a place where I found so much joy as a player. I just want to give back as a coach now.
And then on the soccer side, it's so clear, Michelle, the club, they loved you, they wanted you, they picked you out. What did you need to hear from them to convince you to take the position? What promises?
Was that towards me or towards you?
Question for Amy or for?
Sorry, that was for Amy. Yeah, what did you need to hear in order to be convinced that this was the right move for you?
Sorry about that. I thought that you were asking Michelle. As I mentioned, my very first phone call with ownership was all about development of me as a coach and how they are going to progress women. They're going to empower us to do the next step. I would love to see more female players jump into coaching roles, and I know I'm not the first, but I'm certainly not the last. I feel honored that like my next step is upon me, and I'm being given this opportunity because I think we need more of it in this league, and I'm excited to kind of be a front runner here.
Ryan, your line's open. Ryan McDonald, did you have a question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, sorry. One for Michelle and one for Amy, if that's okay. Michelle, how did you and the rest of the hiring group, I guess, overcome, look past whatever word you want the lack of experience that Amy has as in a head coaching role? How did you resolve that in your mind? And then for Amy, welcome back. And then how do you envision putting a staff together and thoughts on that? I know it's real early, but your initial thoughts on putting a staff together.
So on your question for me, I just coming from personal experience, I came to Major League Soccer as a senior associate at WilmerHale, big law securities firm, as a regulatory attorney, advising mainly financial institutions on their internal policies, et cetera. I came in with no sports experience outside of my law school days. I think foremost for women in the sports industry, experience begets experience. Like if you don't give people experience, you're not going to get experience. So I encountered that. I'm forever grateful for MLS for hiring me when I didn't have experience in the sports industry, but I clearly had a passion of playing background. And so that has stayed with me. And I remember a partner saying that to me when I was, feeling unqualified, right? And well, you can't get experience unless you're granted the opportunity for experience, right? And I think, as Amy's touched upon, so there's never been any kind of doubt in our mind. As I've said, and I've experienced it as a teammate, she is the hardest worker I've ever met. She's the most competitive player on the field that I've ever witnessed. You rarely in an athlete have that combination of true talent and a gift for the game, combined with just this insatiable competitiveness and commitment to winning and to excellence. Knowing that Amy is going to bring that to every role that she takes on throughout her life, there really was no hesitation on our mind. As I've touched upon as well, she has done an amazing job at USC. When you see what she's done with the players, how respected she is, and so that really was not any type of. We didn't see that as a hurdle. We see it as an opportunity. As Amy said, our ownership has prioritized development. They want to advance women in their careers, and so for us, it's definitely a gift and an opportunity.
And to answer your question about putting together a staff, I think other than putting together a player roster, this is the one thing I am most excited about. I am greatly looking forward to building the most hardworking, passionate, intense team of staff that I can find out there. And I want people who want to be here and to further the women's game, empower our players, further their careers, and just create a winning environment. So I'm looking forward to that greatly.
Ethan, we'll go to you. Ethan Kershaw, your line's open.
Thanks, Meg. Hey, Amy, welcome back, first of all. Ethan Kershaw with RSL Season Pass. Obviously, I've spoken with some fans in the community, and they're very excited for the Royals to be back and for you to be the head coach for this team. You mentioned that kind of the impact that the community has had on you. What is the impact that you would like to leave with this Utah community and coming back as a head coach now?
Salt Lake City was one of my favorite teams to play for because every time I stepped out on the field, I felt like the fans embraced me, the crowd, the community. They absolutely, wrapped me in their arms and took care of me and cheered for me, especially after I had come back after tearing an ACL, having my second child. They really rallied around me. And I think giving something back to them where I can rally around them, where I can provide them a championship winning team, that's my big give back. So I'm excited to tap back into the community, get involved again, reach out and really embrace what Salt Lake City has to offer here.
Excellent. Are there any other questions via Zoom or in person that we can ask? Wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today, and congratulations, head coach Amy Rodriguez. We're so excited for what's to come. Enjoy the rest of your day.